At the end of our last journey, we were left with an empty mirror. Photographs surrounded it: a child, a teenager, an adult. Different faces from what appears to be one life. And yet, when we look at those images, we rarely say, "That was another person." We say, "That was me." But what exactly connects the child in the photograph to the person standing here now? It cannot be the body. Almost everything about it has changed. It cannot be personality. The fears, desires, and convictions you once carried may now feel foreign to you. It cannot even be memory. Entire years have disappeared from your mind, while some events you remember may not have happened exactly as you recall them. Still, beneath all this change, we feel that someone has remained. A silent owner of the body, a witness behind every thought. The same I moving from childhood to old age. Buddhist philosophy asks us to look for that witness, not to believe in it, not to deny it, but to search for it directly. And this search leads to one of the most unsettling ideas in the Buddhist tradition. Anatta, not self. Anatta is often translated as no self. And that translation can sound like a declaration that you do not exist, that your emotions are unreal, that your life is meaningless, or that the person listening to these words is merely an illusion. But this is not what the teaching is asking us to accept. Buddhism does not deny that a person appears, acts, remembers, suffers, and makes choices. It questions something more specific. The belief that somewhere inside those experiences exists a permanent, independent, and unchanging owner. Imagine a river. We give it a name. We draw it on maps. We return to it years later and call it the same river. But its water is never the same. Its banks shift. Its depth changes. What we call the river is not a hidden object beneath the current. It is the current. A continuing pattern created by water, gravity, weather, and land. The human self may exist in a similar way, not as a fixed object, but as an unfolding process. The danger begins when we mistake the process for a permanent possession, when we believe there must be something inside us that cannot change without being destroyed. Anatta does not say that nobody is here. It asks whether the person who is here exists in the way we imagine. One of the earliest Buddhist examinations of the self divides human experience into 5 groups: the body, feeling, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. These are often called the 5 aggregates. They are not 5 pieces of a soul. They are 5 places where we repeatedly search for one. First, the body. But the body ages, becomes ill, and changes beyond our permission. If it were completely ours, we could command it never to weaken. Then there is feeling, pleasant, painful, or neutral. But feelings arrive before we invite them and disappear before we are ready. Perception identifies what we encounter: a face, a voice, a threat, a memory. Yet perception can be mistaken. Mental formations include intentions, habits, reactions, and desires. But these too arise from conditions we did not fully choose. Finally, consciousness, the simple fact that something is being experienced. Perhaps the true self is hiding there. But consciousness also changes. Waking consciousness disappears into sleep. Attention breaks. Awareness narrows, expands, and moves from one object to another. The teaching does not say these experiences are nothing. It says that none of them can honestly be called permanent. None remains entirely under our control, and none can be isolated as the unchanging owner of all the others. There is a simple and uncomfortable test hidden inside the teaching of Anatta. If something is truly yourself, why can you not command it? Tell your body never to feel pain. Tell anxiety not to enter the room. Tell anger to disappear the moment you notice it. Tell the mind to produce only useful thoughts. Tell memory to preserve everything you love and erase everything that wounded you. It does not obey. This does not mean that human beings are powerless. We can train attention, change habits, strengthen the body, learn to respond differently. But influence is not ownership. A gardener can shape a garden without controlling the rain, the soil, or the arrival of winter. In the same way, we participate in the formation of ourselves without becoming an absolute ruler standing outside the process. Look carefully at the next thought that appears in your mind. Did you construct it word by word before it arrived, or did you become aware of it only after it was already there? Then another thought appears, and another. Yet somewhere between them, the mind creates the feeling of an author. It says, "I am thinking, I am choosing, this belongs to me." Anatta asks whether this author can be found, or whether it is another thought appearing inside the same stream. But a problem remains. If there is no permanent self, who wakes up tomorrow? Who carries the consequences of yesterday? Who made the promise, and who must keep it? Anatta does not erase continuity. It separates continuity from permanence. A flame passes from one candle to another. The second flame is not numerically identical to the first, but neither is it completely unrelated. One condition gave rise to the next. Human life can be understood as a chain of this kind. Each moment inherits the effects of previous moments and becomes a condition for those that follow. The person who wakes tomorrow will carry the body you cared for or neglected today. They may inherit the trust you built, the fear you repeated, the apology you refused to make. There does not need to be an unchanging soul for consequences to continue. A permanent owner is not required for a process to preserve its history. This is why anatta is not an escape from responsibility. In some ways, it makes responsibility more immediate. Every action participates in creating the person who will face its result. You are not a finished object making occasional decisions. You are also being formed by every decision you make. The future self is neither entirely you nor entirely someone else. It is what this moment is becoming. The self may not be a solid object, but it is a powerful story. It collects memories and arranges them into a biography. It explains why we succeeded, why we failed, why we deserve love, why we cannot forgive. The story is constantly edited. Contradictions are removed. Embarrassing details are hidden. Old wounds are used to explain new decisions. And when someone challenges this story, the body may react as if it has been physically attacked. A criticism becomes a threat. An apology feels like surrender. Changing our mind feels like betraying ourselves. We may continue defending a choice long after we know it was wrong, because admitting the truth would damage the person we believe ourselves to be. This is where the teaching of anatta becomes personal. Suffering does not arise only because life changes. It also arises because we build an identity around something that life is already changing. A career becomes who I am. A relationship becomes who I am. Strength, beauty, intelligence, victimhood, or success becomes who I am. Then time touches it. The role ends, the body changes, someone leaves. And we do not experience only loss, we experience the apparent destruction of the one who owned it. Perhaps the deepest fear is not that something will disappear, it is that we will disappear with it. At first, a permanent self sounds comforting. Something inside us survives every change. Something cannot be touched by failure, age, or death. But permanence can also become a prison. If there is a fixed person inside you, then every mistake reveals what that person truly is. A failure means you are a failure. An act of cowardice means you are a coward. Something done to you becomes part of your permanent identity. But if the self is a process, the past remains real without becoming a final definition. The wound matters. The mistake has consequences. Responsibility does not disappear. What disappears is the belief that one event has discovered your eternal nature. You are not required to protect every former version of yourself. You can release an opinion without erasing your history. You can leave a role without becoming nobody. You can admit, that was part of me, that shaped me, but it is not everything I can become. Anatta is not the destruction of the person. It is the loosening of the walls around the person. The teaching does not remove individuality. It reveals that individuality is alive, dependent on relationships, memory, language, body, culture, and countless conditions we never created alone. There may be no isolated self beneath these conditions, but there is a human life within them, unfinished, responsive, and still capable of change. Anatta cannot be understood only as an idea. The mind can repeat the words, "There is no permanent self," and immediately turn them into a new identity. I am the person who understands. I am the one who has seen through the illusion. The self returns through the back door. The deeper question begins in ordinary moments. When anger appears, can it be experienced without immediately saying, "This is who I am"? When fear appears, can it be felt without becoming the owner of the future? When a memory returns, can it be acknowledged without allowing it to define the entire life around it? For a moment, the word "I" becomes quieter. The body is still here. The memory is still here. Choices and consequences remain. But there may be no separate observer standing outside experience and controlling it all. Only seeing, hearing, remembering, responding. A life happening through causes and conditions, changing even as it tries to describe itself. And perhaps this is why the empty mirror from our last journey was not truly empty. It reflected a room, a doorway, changing light, a world continuing without a permanent figure at its center. But if the self is not a fixed observer, another question begins. If there is no independent I standing behind experience, then what creates the world we believe we see?